All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this Thursday, July 11th meeting of the Missoula Board of County Commissioners. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And to begin with, I would like to introduce our newest commissioner, Commissioner Juanita Vero. First meeting here, so welcome. And just as some basic housekeeping, I would like to remind folks to please sign in the back. If you have not already, you can take care of that on your way out. Please also silence your cell phones. And when we get around to the point of taking public comment on various items, please do try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. I think we're going to take things out of slight order today, given that one of the items coming up here, the guest of honor has not arrived yet. Are there any other public announcements beyond the Land Stewardship Award? Okay, let's just hold that for the time being. Is there any public comment on items not on today's agenda? And you should have an agenda, or if you don't, there are agendas in the back. You'll have an opportunity to comment on each of those items as they come up. Is there anything else anyone wants to talk about that's on your mind today? Okay, seeing none. Our current claims list. This is claims received by the Commissioner's Office as of June 19th through July 3rd, 2019. Totals $3,331,859.12. And if anyone's really interested in drilling down into what the individual items are that make up that claims list, you can go to the electronic packet for this meeting on your website, click on the item, and you can see the whole list. Also, as we begin our list of public hearings here today, the way this will work is we will begin each public hearing with a staff report. There will be an opportunity, if there's an applicant or an applicant's representative associated with that particular public hearing item, for that individual or individuals to speak. I'll open up the public hearing. There will be opportunity for public comment. Again, try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. I'll close the public hearing. There will be an opportunity for the commission to ask questions. If it's an action item, we will entertain a motion. We'll vote on the item, and there you have it. How many folks are here today for the Pineview Drive road petition? Okay, a number. Without objection, why don't we move that to the top of the heap and take that one first. And let's begin with a, sorry to catch you off guard there. Let's begin with a staff report from Sam Scott, and I'll give you a moment to collect your thoughts. And you know what, Sam? I'm going to hit the pause button right now because our guest of honors just arrived. So, yeah, you're just primed and ready. Okay, so without further ado, it's with great honor that we every year are able to come forward with the award of our Missoula County Land Stewardship Award. And to begin with, would Kylie Paul want to come on up and say a few words by way of introduction? It is not on. You can hit the, yep.
Now it's on.
There you go.
Green. I'm Kylie Paul, Natural Resource Specialist for the county's Parks, Trails, and Open Lands program. And the Missoula County Land Stewardship Award is an annual award that recognizes individuals who demonstrate outstanding land stewardship practices and shares information about these stewardship practices so that others can learn from their work. Private landowners or land managers conducting stewardship on private lands are nominated by neighbors and community members. There's a rigorous review and recommendation process involved, making this quite a significant award to receive. Now, if the commissioners would read a proclamation announcing the recipient or recipients, that'd be great. And then if Jim Cusker could come on up after that, who is the chair of the Outreach and Communications Subcommittee of the county's Open Land Citizen Advisory Committee, who then he'll further speak about the recipients. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Slotnick.
Thanks. It's a great honor to read this. Whereas Missoula County landowners and residents play a vital role in caring for our natural resources, and there are exemplary land stewards throughout Missoula County engaging in voluntary projects and practices that protect and enhance our natural resources. And Missoula County, through the Land Stewardship Award Program, wishes to recognize and thank these land stewards, as well as promote their stewardship success stories so others may learn from them. And the Missoula County Open Land Citizens Advisory Committee reviewed the nominations and made a unanimous recommendation for the 2019 Land Stewardship Award winner. Now, therefore, we, the Missoula Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim Bart and Wendy Morris of Missoula as recipients of the 2019 Missoula County Land Stewardship Award. We honor the Morrises' outstanding efforts in caring for the natural resources in Missoula County and for providing citizens with an opportunity to learn from their success, as well as their great burger. Thanks a lot, and congratulations, Bart and Wendy.
Thank you. Mr. Cusker, come on up. Jim, could you hit that little button on the mic base there? Thank you.
Thank you. Certainly a great pleasure for me to be able to relate to you and everyone here why Bart and Wendy were selected for this award. A land steward. Land stewards are someone who find themselves occupying a piece of property. They identify the natural resources that are there, and as long as they are there, they practice techniques and conservation measures that when they leave the land that has been entrusted to them is even better than when they first found it. And as I read some of the achievements that the Morrises have done, I think you will most certainly agree that they are land stewards of the highest caliber. The first thing a land steward does is to identify the resources that are present. The resources that the Open Lands Committee looks at, water. The Morrises utilized geothermal and solar energy to transport water from a developed spring. The soil, much of the soil on their ranch is of extreme agricultural importance. They have enhanced the health of the soil through planting cover crops, weed control, and highly selective grazing. Enhance the native vegetation on their property as Miller Creek goes through it by the planting of native trees and shrubs along the riparian zone. The cutthroat trout have most certainly taken advantage of this because this is now a place where they have a location where they can spawn and thrive. They have protected this piece of land that they now occupy in perpetuity by placing it in a conservation easement. I would like to mention some of the stewardship challenges that they faced to mitigate the limited water resources. They worked with NRCS to develop a spring with a frost-free water tank to provide year-round water for stock and wildlife. They worked with renewable energy specialists to install an off-grid water pump using solar and geothermal energy. They practiced rotational grazing to utilize the landscape most effectively. They mitigated vandalism by establishing good relationship with hunters and provide public access. They involved others. Now, this is extremely important because the knowledge and the techniques that they use then can be used and exploited by others down the line. They've hosted field trips and community events at their ranch. They participated in CFAC's farm business planning and farm law workshops. They hosted field days for professors and students in forestry and ecology. They teamed with neighbors in establishing old fencing, replacing that with wildlife-friendly fencing. They worked with the Bitterroot Water Forum and community members on a riparian project habitat on Miller Creek. Something that OLC noted, and I doubt that it has ever happened before, was that 4 separate nominations for the Morrises were submitted. These include Five Valleys Land Trust, the Community Food and Agriculture, along with 2 individuals, Christine Acklin, who is a member of the Open Space Advisory Committee, and Ashton Sandberg, who is a former CAPS intern. One last comment. I am inspired by what they have done. I love to see that they have the same land ethic that the folks who first came here in the Missoula Valley realized the value of the resources and have enhanced what is now in their undertaking. So congratulations and many, many thanks to Bart and Wendy.
Thanks, Jim. Is there any other public comment or any other individuals who would like to comment on this year's Land Stewardship Award winners? Vicki, come on up.
Hello, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to provide comment on this amazing award. And I just want to thank you all for having this opportunity for folks to be able to nominate our private landowners for the great work that they do on their lands that provide so many public benefits. And
this is Vicki Edwards with Five Valleys Land Trust.
I just realized I didn't say
That's
that.
okay.
Sorry. My name is Vicki Edwards with Five Valleys Land Trust. And we did nominate Bart and Wendy Morris for this great award. And I echo many of the things that were just spoken about them. They really are just such amazing individuals. And something I really kind of want to point to is, how they end up working with partners and adjacent landowners and building those relationships. And it really does come down to relationships when I think about all the great work that we can do on our landscape, and then the partnerships that end up coming up from that and the great results you get from it. And we're definitely seeing that from Bart and Wendy Morris. And so I just want to reiterate our support for this award going to Bart and Wendy Morris, and thank you for the opportunity to provide that comment. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this? Any comments from the commission? Well, Bart and Wendy, come on up. Just Bart.
Thank you.
All right. Congratulations.
This is Caroline Caldwell. She works for.
Do you want Caroline to come on?
Come on up here, Caroline.
Yeah, why not?
Ready? All right.
Something
Looks
cool.
good, yeah. All right, 3, 2, 1. One more.
Pineview Drive. It's all yours, Sam.
So I'm Sam Scott with the Clerk and Recorder's Office, and I think the Clerk and Recorder has received a petition to establish the following right-of-way. That portion of Pine Drive beginning at the north end of Pine Drive as platted in Sealy Lake Home Sites number 4, about right there, roughly, ending at a line parallel with and 30 feet south of the north line of Section 3, Township 16 North, Range 15 West. So up here. This area has also gone by a couple other names other than Pine Drive, such as Slowway and Soulway Drive. A notice of hearing has been published twice in the Missoulian and in the Pathfinder. The petition was signed by at least 10 freeholders of the road district, and the affected landowners, as could be best identified by our office, have been notified. The ownership of the proposed roadway itself, as well as 2 of the adjacent parcels to the roadway, has been uncertain. However, the heirs of the likely owners of the property are here to speak today as well. So.
Okay, thank you. Steve Nide, do you want to chime in at this point or later on, or what's your pleasure?
I'd like Gene to make a couple of comments
Oh.
first.
Okay, very good. Ms. Curtis.
Good afternoon. Seems kind of funny to see on this side of this. My name's Jean Curtis. I serve as the district manager for the Sealy Lake Sewer District, and the Sewer District is the one who petitioned Missoula County to create this public right-of-way on a short section of Pine Drive in Sealy Lake basically between Oak and Cedar. And there's a complex history for this road. I'd like to thank Steve Nide and Shira Scott and Sam Scott for their thorough review of the petition. As you can see in your packet, by looking at the map, it looks like the hatched area of Pine Drive is a road, but it was platted as a lot in the subdivision. Currently, the road lot has not been built as a road. You can see from the aerial photos that the property owners access their lots from both ends of that road, but it functions more like a driveway or a cul-de-sac, and it doesn't go all the way through. The folks who live there like it that way and do not desire to build a through road, as they feel it will become a shortcut for traffic and create a safety issue for the current residents. The clerk and recorder's research confirmed that the 2 gentlemen who developed the subdivision, Mr. Steinbrenner and Mr. Sayer, have passed away, and they also went through probate courts to find the descendants. So that's great. I understand there are 5 daughters altogether, and they were not aware that they'd inherited these lots. So the district has petitioned you to create this public right-of-way to locate a portion of the soon-to-be-built public sewer system in that right-of-way. The Water District is also interested in adding a redundant loop on Pine Drive. Blackfoot Telephone is currently assessing adding fiber in the upper portion of the new sewer trenches to expand broadband in Sealy Lake. And the Missoula Electric Co-op continues to bury more of their lines in Sealy as wind and snow take out trees that take out power lines. So this public right-of-way is needed for local utilities. It's also needed for those who live on each side of the current road to have legal access to their lots. While they have prescriptive use, because they've accessed them for years, they don't have a legal access in the full sense of the word. I know you've received at least one comment about how no one wants the sewer and it's never going to happen, but that's not the case. The treatment plant and phase 1 of the collection system is scheduled to go to bid in January of 2020, and we're hopeful that phase 2 of the collection system will go to bid in March of 2020. This right-of-way is needed for one of those main lines. I sent all the property owners along this section of Pine Drive a letter, except the ones that we didn't know about, explaining the history and the petition to make it a right-of-way. I also personally called all the folks that I had a phone number for. So I talked to, if you look at the ownership map, Jason Brown, Olga Bergset, Sandra Bergeson, and Kyle O'Brien, who his parents own the one lot. 4 of the 7 owners signed the petition, and I didn't have access to the contact information for the family that I understand is here today. So I know it's your job to review the petition, and then one commissioner will have to visit the site before making your decision. I'm confident you'll see the need for this public right-of-way for the good of the citizens of Seeley Lake and Missoula County, and I would like to join you when you do that site visit. So I'm here for questions if you have them.
Okay, thanks, Jean. And as Ms. Curtis mentioned, which is correct, we won't be making any sort of a decision today. We're opening the public hearing, taking public comment, and then we will schedule a commissioner to go out and do a site visit, work with Steve Nide to develop a report that will come back to the commission, and at a later date, and maybe even today, we'll be able to schedule that date. We will continue the public hearing, at which point we will take action on the petition. So with that, I'd like to open the public hearing. Are there individuals here who would like to comment on the petition to establish a right-of-way along a portion of Pineview Drive? Come on up to the mic. Don't be shy. Whenever.
Hello, I'm Rosemary Harrison. I live here in Missoula, and I am representing the heirs of M.C. Sayer and George Steinbrenner. My sister Jeanette McKee is here with me today. She's from Hamilton. And then the daughters of George Steinbrenner are Gay Darling, Lynn Kappas, and Tony Steinbrenner. And we've all, as you may know, were just informed of this a week ago, that we owned this property. And so we've been doing some research on it this week with title companies and so forth. We are interested in, we're not in favor of or opposed to the sewer situation, but we are interested in pursuing with the county what our rights are and any kind of proposals that might be coming forward for the use of this right-of-way for our behalf. So.
Thank you. Additional public comment. Come on up.
I'll jump in. Hi, I'm also, I have to appreciate, Jeanette McKee, born in Missoula, raised here forever, and I think Jim Custer was my math teacher at one point, just an aside.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's like, whoa.
Did he
Have
give
lived
you
in the
good
Bitter-
grades?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whoa. So lived in the Bitter since 1972, and this is our father, M.C. Sayer, and the other 3, and they were partners in this Northwest Pacific Investments. And thanks to the county and your due diligence for tracking us down, which was just a week ago. And so we got the information of this. We've always knew about the lots and the development and the things and what they were selling there in Seeley Lake in the 80s and 70s probably. I'm trying to go backwards as to when that began. So we knew about the lots and those things, but this was a surprise to us. We didn't realize that there is not only this area of the roadway, but a lot and another lot, which apparently my sister went and toured that. I have not, has been well, encroached upon, I guess you would say. That's not your issue. We're not coming here for that at all. But so, we're trying to get the basic information. We too would ask for a little bit more time. I support what my sister said, and we've been in communication with 2 of the other 3 sisters. So we're all on board here and available for any other opportunities to take this further for what works best for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional comment? Jane.
Mr. Chair, Jean Curtis again. I'd just like to state that because the sewer district did not realize that there were owners, we didn't know where the owners were. So we did not have this appraised. But there is money in the budget, if that is part of the solution, there's money in the budget to purchase easements. And so I just want the family to know that we weren't trying to skip out on that. It's just that we didn't have the contact information until Sam and Shira did their good due diligence. So we do have that available.
Okay, thanks. Good to know. Any additional public comment at this time? Okay, come on up, Steve.
Excuse me, Steve Nide from the Surveyor's Office. I just wanted to say that there is no plan to build a county road within that right-of-way. I mean, I'm not saying that that wouldn't happen at some time in the future, but currently the plan is to just use that easement or that right-of-way for the utilities. And I would reiterate what Jean said about providing recorded legal access to those properties, which is currently not the case. And there's always the possibility that should one of those landowners want to sell their property or get a loan for improvements, the lending institutions have become a little more critical in making sure that there is a recorded legal access to that property before they lend money. So that establishing this public right-of-way would be of benefit to those landowners in that respect.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment at this time? Okay, well, we'll go ahead and leave the public hearing open. We should probably schedule when we want to reconvene and take action on this, and also look at scheduling a viewing for one of the commissioners. Steve, I'm assuming you would be the one going up there. What's your schedule looking like over the next few weeks?
I'm pretty open, but I would suggest that we give these ladies a chance at what they want to, what further investigation they want to do. So maybe we should hear from them and get an idea of how long they think they would need.
Okay. Any thoughts? And if you need more time, I guess we do not necessarily have to make a decision today. We always like to, if possible, schedule the next public hearing.
Coming back and I'll look, because to be truthful, Gay, she's in Arizona, and the other one is in Florence, and there's one that isn't, we understand, is incapacitated, and so we probably maybe only be dealing with two. We haven't had that conversation
Okay.
yet. I'm thinking of my world and my life. You say you have a lot of open time. Is it too late to ask you about maybe mid-August? Is that unfair? Does that work?
That should
Is
work
that
fine.
Does that work? That really, if with a lot of things already on our plate, which we had no idea, but again, we appreciate and are thankful.
So
Our fathers, by the way, are in heaven smiling down on this and going, oh my gosh, this is really fun. I got to tell you, and I have to take a moment, but I brought my father's great-grandson here today. He's watching this process, and this is Tom, and he's going to take this and write a paper about it, I think.
Okay, welcome, Tom. So would perhaps the August 22nd public meeting give us enough time to? Okay, let's go ahead and tentatively schedule August 22nd. And the viewing sometime between now and then, would that, or are you thinking the viewing by August 22nd and the public hearing sometime thereafter?
The public hearing, the 22nd would work.
Okay, let's lock that in, and then
As long as we can get whoever would like to attend the viewing, so we can let them know when the date will be.
sure.
Get a list.
I know.
Yeah, contact me.
Okay, and we'll just keep in touch with Jean Curtis also on the viewing date, and it will likely be Commissioner Vero, so maybe you and Steve Nide could work together and figure out what works for all the parties. Okay. All right, thanks everyone for joining us for this item. You are more than welcome to stick around for the other attractions on the agenda, but I will not take offense if you decide to leave the room at this point also. Okay, we will return to the list of agenda items in the order in which they appear right now, and we'll pick up with something brought to us by the Building and Development Manager from Public Works, I believe, and this is a resolution to adopt the updated Missoula County Building Code Enforcement Program and reinspection fees. It's all yours.
I'm Nicole White with Missoula County Public Works. I'm the Building and Program Development Manager. And pretty much today, we are just asking for a resolution to be adopted that's already an internal policy that was adopted with the program in 2006. It just wasn't adopted as an exhibit. It was already approved by the Department of Labor and Industry in 2006 when we started the program. So we pretty much just cleaned up the resolution and made sure that it was updated as possible, and then added a section about reinspection fees that is not included in the code right now for building permits. And that's about it.
Okay, I will open the public hearing on the resolution. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Are there questions from the commission? Okay, we are on a roll. I would entertain a motion.
We put language up here. I would move that we approve a resolution to adopt the code enforcement program update and reinspection fees for Missoula County Public Works.
Second.
Okay, that motion and second is in order. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Sam, you're up again. So we have Marco Flats Footbridge Road petition.
Okay, so Sam Scott with the Clerk and Recorder, and our office has received a petition to abandon the following right-of-way.
Sam, could you pull the mic just a little bit closer? Thanks.
A petition to abandon the following right-of-way. That portion of Tract I of COS 475, located in Section 14, Township 13 North, Range 18 West, as depicted on the exhibit recorded with the petition at Book 1013, page 780, and I'll pull that up in a second. The petition fee has been paid in full. A notice of hearing has been published twice in the Missoulian. The petition was signed by 10 freeholders of the road district, and all affected landowners have been contacted. And I'm not sure if we have the submitter here today. That was Kevin Jones.
Okay. Is there anyone representing? Okay, property owner.
I'm Kevin Jones. I'm an attorney here in Missoula, and I represent the petitioners Ward and Linda Cambridge. The Cambridges acquired their property, which adjoins this right-of-way, in 1984. And at the time of the purchase, the property included 2 houses, and they have been using that property as rental properties since 1984. They went to look at maybe selling the property a few years ago and discovered that a portion of the retaining wall that had been in place since the 1950s and a corner of the front house there and part of the deck all was lying within the county's 60-foot right-of-way, and also the county had obtained fee title to the property by virtue of a judgment back in 1974. These houses predated that judgment, and so we began looking at what we could do to solve this problem, because it was going to be extremely difficult to sell the property and these 2 houses when the retaining wall and a portion of the house and the deck all encroached upon the county's fee title and right-of-way. So I worked with John Hart at the county attorney's office and Mr. Nide at the surveyor's office, and we filed an action in the district court to quiet title to a small portion of the fee title to the property, and that was accomplished, I think, 2 years ago, and that was attached to the petition. And now we're finally getting around to finishing up what we started, which is trying to get the county to abandon a small portion of the right-of-way so that both the house and the deck and the retaining wall are outside the right-of-way. the Cambridges hired a surveyor, and we worked with Mr. Hart and Mr. Nide to come up with the smallest portion of property we could, take it the smallest out of the right-of-way that we could to accomplish what the Cambridges needed. And I think that survey was also attached to the petition that shows exactly what small section we're trying to get the county to abandon as part of the right-of-way. And if it is abandoned, then the county right-of-way would match the county's fee title property. It's basically the same property that we quieted title to with the district court action a couple of years ago.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll go ahead and open the public hearing on this item. Is there any public comment? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Any questions from the commission? And I guess I'll start by saying, just to be clear, this is not restricting people's access to the footbridge.
No, it's this is mostly up toward the highway, and it's more the approach off of the highway. It's not in any way altering the parking that's there and has existed since at least 1974, and it doesn't impede the access to the footbridge in any way. In fact, I think the county right-of-way at the access to the footbridge still remains 60 feet. It's only narrowed off the highway and at an angle into the house, and wouldn't really impede even a future road that was to be constructed there, but it doesn't affect access to the footbridge in any way.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nide, anything you want to add to this? Oh, you're so tempted. Come on.
He did so well. I have nothing to add, really. Like he said, it won't adversely affect public access to the bridge. And just as a bit of history, that right-of-way existed because the main highway up the Blackfoot River crossed at that point where the bridge is, stayed on the north side of the river for some distance, and then came back. So that's how that old right-of-way came into being. And again, I would offer the suggestion that since this is on the way to Pine Drive in Sealy, we might do both viewings at the same time, on the same trip.
I guess that depends whether Juanita is in Greeno at the time or not, but maybe we can work it out. So, okay,
All right.
Sounds good. And as far as setting a public hearing to wrap this up, you can do them both at the same time, August 22nd?
Do both at the same time unless the petitioners have a problem with that.
Are you okay with that, August 22nd? Okay, very good. Well, that being the case, we'll go ahead and leave the public hearing open. I think I prematurely closed it thinking we were going to take action, but we are not. So we will do a viewing and take it up again on August 22nd. Thank you. Thanks, Sam. Next, we have a requested sewer easement at Westview Park with a staff report by Garrick Swanson.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. I am Garrick Swanson with the Missoula County Parks, Trails, and Open Lands Program. I am here to give a staff report on a requested sanitary sewer easement in Westview Park, also known as St. John's Park. The easement was requested by a PCI engineering firm in Missoula representing Brady Nelson. This park is located in Lolo, up on the Lolo hillsides off of a Ridgeway Drive. There are several parks up on this hillside that are within the county park system. I have highlighted the adjacent parks to St. John's Park where the easement is requested. We have Westview Park to the east, and then with St. John's Park, and then Claremont Park. I do apologize, there is an error in this drawing showing the approximate location of the easement. It is not in Claremont Park. zooming in closer to look at some existing conditions, the easement will impact the existing driveway to a residence to the south. In May of 2002, the Missoula County granted a access easement through the park to that residence to the south. There are some vehicle encroachments that are being stored in the park from the property owner on Lot 1, which will be removed prior to construction of the sewer easement. PCI has contacted the adjacent property owners and have not received any complaints back about the requested sewer easement through the park. Then there is a large existing Douglas fir tree that will be on the eastern edge of the sewer easement in there. Looking a little bit further, St. John's Park is currently encumbered by a series of water line easements, as shown in blue. And then the proposed approximate easement location is highlighted here in red. It's approximately 156 feet of sewer main in there, encompassing just under 2,000 square feet, I believe. Here in this drawing, you can see that we have 3 hatched areas that are outside of the requested easement that are on private property. Those are excluded from the easement request by PCI to the county. There's also an existing trail that does intersect the easement, and upon restoration of the land, that trail will be restored as per the easement document. And then that existing Douglas fir tree will be monitored for a period of 5 years for its health. Shall it need to be removed or pruned during that time, the client, Brady Nelson, has agreed to be financially responsible for all costs within that 5-year window. This is a graphic showing the approximate center line of that easement, and then how it conflicts with the existing encroachments there on the left of the screen. In review of the easement, the proposed easement contains 2,869 square feet, approximately 150 linear feet of 8-inch sewer main. There is an easement compensation value being offered at $1,917. That value was based off of the Montana Cadastral 2018 taxable value and calculated as a square foot value. Those funds received will go towards the maintenance and management of the Lolo Hillside Parks. Review of conditions: no permanent structures are to be built. All disturbed sections shall be restored to a 4-inch depth of 3/4 inch minus with a 24-inch wide tread. All disturbed ground shall be restored as close as possible and approved by the Parks, Trails, and Open Lands Program staff. Grantee is responsible for all permits and costs. Mentioned earlier, grantee will be responsible for all costs for 5 years post sewer line install to monitor the health of the Douglas fir tree, and grantee is responsible for all costs, repair, and damages to the existing asphalt driveway. Parks, Trails, and Open Land supports the request for the sanitary sewer easement through Westview Park. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant or applicant's representative like to make any comments?
Hello. This is on. My name is Jeff Standard, and I'm with PCI, and this is Brady Nelson. He's himself.
I'm me.
Thanks for hearing this today. Brady hired us to basically get sanitary facilities to these existing lots that have existed since the 70s. Westview Park, or Westview number 2 subdivision, and these lots kind of are landlocked where they are. They're not, it's not, sanitary facilities are not right next to them. We have to bring the sewer about 490 feet to bring the sewer in there. We'll be connecting to Lolo Sewer and Water. We've been working through all the approvals with, Lolo Sewer and Water, DEQ, County Public Works, and basically have the approvals. We've talked to the landowners next door. There will be a couple days of construction disturbance. There'll be some disturbance of the park, but Brady has agreed to put things back better than they were found. The tree is a concern. We are somewhat close to the tree, but Brady has agreed to be responsible for the tree if something does happen to the tree in the future in the next 5 years. I think that's pretty fair. So with that,
Yeah, it was just the parks itself, it shows it crossing. It's kind of hard to see it on your guys' picture there, but it's just basically a real rough terrain that's really never been landscaped whatsoever. It's just a rough trail going through there, and I'll definitely make it a whole lot better than it is now. I mean, right now it's just like a goat trail going up through there, so. And I will make it, a lot better than it was, and then the only other place is the paving, where we have to go to the manhole, and I will bring that right up to new too. Right now it's just all old paving, so it'll be way better than it was when I'm done. I'll have access to my lots. I've owned them lots a long time, and there's no way we could get approval for a drain field like what used to be easy to do. Now it isn't. So that was the problem. So
Okay.
I started this about 2 years ago. So if that's any consolation.
So we have had a meeting with the Parks Board, and Brady has offered up the compensation there based on cadastral is what we went with, and so we're hoping that that's adequate. And so
Okay, thanks, Jeff and Brady.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
thank you.
So I'll open up the public hearing on the right-of-way or the easement. Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I will close the hearing. Any questions from the commission on the sanitary sewer easement? Seeing none, would someone like to make a motion?
I motion to grant a public sanitary sewer easement through Westview Park.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Next, we have a public hearing on a resolution to award County Trails Bond Program funds to Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks for the Bandman Flats Trailhead and Trail Project at Milltown State Park. And we'll begin with a staff report by John Stegmeyer.
Good afternoon, John Stegmeyer, Missoula County Parks, Trails, Open Lands Program. Thank you, commissioners, for entertaining this hearing today. We have a county trails bond project located in the Bonner vicinity. This application is submitted to us by Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks by virtue of Milltown State Parks. The primary features of this project include a trailhead facility, which I'll show here in a minute, a connecting trail from that trailhead facility into other parts of the park, a river overlook, and my personal favorite, a improvement to an abandoned Milwaukee rail tunnel that will connect two parts of the park area. So those are the big items that this funding will contribute towards. Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks is requesting $79,010, which accounts for about 25% of the total project cost. The map we're looking at here shows the project schematic. In the upper left corner is the trail parking area that's off of Deer Creek Road, really close to the shooting range, Western Montana Fish and Game Shooting Range, across the road from there. And then the lines in red would be the new trail that would be a part of this project. The green lines on the map and the yellow lines are trails that already exist, so this would create ties into that existing system. Here's a closer look at the parking area. I believe it will account for 17 vehicles, and our representatives from Fish, Wildlife, and Parks can correct me if I'm wrong, but we particularly are excited about the way that the design has come together that will enable ADA access and expand the county's, the overall county recreation resources for mobility impaired users. So in short, the Missoula County Parks Trails Advisory Board recommends approval for this project, as does the program staff. The criteria that scored particularly high from the evaluation included project readiness based on multiple years of planning for this project and an effort to pool together a variety of funding sources to bring in a strong match. The design, as I mentioned previously, adheres to ADA guidelines for accessible trails. The alignment of the trail is also appropriate for integration into future trail connection projects and expansion of a regional trail system. Inclusion of the abandoned railway tunnel in the design should serve as an attraction for this part of the county. The funding match, as I mentioned, is approximately about 3-to-1 in favor of the applicant. The support for this project has been many years in the making. We have not received any oppositional comment or testimony. And the maintenance, it being wholly within the state park system, eliminates our concerns over jurisdictional maintenance and who will cover that. The park has budget for it. So I'm looking for your approval for this project via a qualifying and approval resolution to award the $79,010 to Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks for this trail project. And that concludes my report.
Thanks, John. Mike or Lauren, do you guys want to say anything from the perspective of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks?
Hi, I'm Mike Custudi. I'm the manager of Milltown State Park. I think John covered a lot of the key points to it. It has been a long time in the making. This vision for this project actually came out of the Milltown Redevelopment Working Group that was brought together by the commission back in 2003. So there's some deep roots there. For our agency, we've been involved with it since 2011 when it was acquired from Five Valleys Land Trust, and it's just been trying to package the funding together ever since, and this is the last piece that we would need. We've been greatly appreciative of all the support from the Missoula County Commission, and look forward to future efforts. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, this is a public hearing. I'll open the hearing. Is there any public comment on this utilization of trail bond money? Former Commissioner Curtis.
Thank you, Dave. Jean Curtis. I strongly support this. This is exactly what I think the public thought that they would should happen with the Trails bond when it was passed, is to make connections. I was involved in this for many years, and I'm so excited that we finally get to use that tunnel, which there were points in time where we were sure it wasn't usable, but we found out it is. So I think this is a great use of public funds, leveraging lots of other funds, and it will be great for the public.
Thank you. Additional public comment? Okay, seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Any questions or comments from the commission? I'll jump in. Is there anyone from the media out there? Jeez. These momentous things, you just never know what's going to catch the attention. This is the first use, I believe, of our trail bond money for an actual project. Is that correct, John?
We have awarded funds in the past, but none that had a fully funded match. So, yes, this is significant.
Yes, we fully anticipate this project will come to fruition. So, no, this is great. I've been waiting to see this happen for a long time, as have many other folks in the community, and I'm pretty excited about this.
I was going to say we're proud to be associated with this next step, long time in coming.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I would move that the board approve by resolution the recommendation from the Parks and Trails Advisory Board to award up to $79,010 of County Trails Bond Program funds to Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks for the Bandman Flats Trailhead and Trail Project at Milltown State Park.
An enthusiastic second.
Excellent. Any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Go forth and build it. Okay, our last and next and final item is a discussion regarding scheduling a future hearing to formally grant or deed a portion of 2340 Mullen Road for low-income and supportive housing. And why don't we begin with a staff report from either Vicki, or I see Anna Connolly also drifted to the front of the room. So either one of you can make comments if you'd like.
Good afternoon. I'm Vicki Zier, Chief Administrative Officer for Missoula County. On May 28, 2019, the Board of County Commissioners presented a letter to Homeward and Missoula Housing Authority indicating significant interest in donating up to 4 acres of county-owned property located at 2340 Mullen Road, which is northeast of the detention facility, for low-income and supportive housing. It is important for you to consider several items before you make a final decision on whether or not you plan to grant or deed this property for low-income and supportive housing. Today, county staff seeks commissioner direction on their desired components of a staff report containing the details and information required for the commission to make a final decision whether to formally grant or deed a portion of the property for housing. Some of the items and questions staff proposes to be included in the report are: what would the property boundary be? What is the process required to establish that boundary, and who would be the entity responsible for taking the property through that process? A legal analysis, that's why Anna's here. What will be required to deed or grant the land? Also a legal analysis of previous jail bond elections and any restrictions that may go with the land due to the bond election. What role will the county play in decisions related to housing programming and services provided on the property, and what the appropriate legal document in which to capture that role? Are there additional steps in seeking public comment related to this decision above and beyond opening a public comment period? Other items and questions you would like us to include in our staff report. And finally, the staff report, right now we would be presenting that by August 22nd at your public meeting.
Very good, thank you. Anna, anything you want to add now?
No, I just, I'm here because I think I did a little initial research on the potential type of conveyance instrument you might want to use. And so I think it is useful for us to provide some specific information to you with regard to those options, and we're ready and willing to do so if directed.
Okay, thank you. All right, we can have some discussion here in a moment, but is there any public comment on this particular item? Come on up.
Good afternoon, Jean Curtis. So and the one question that Vicki said she'd like direction from you on is how much public process do you want? And I just think it has seemed like it hasn't had very much. So probably not all of you were involved in locating the jail there in the first place, but that was a huge public process to decide where to put such a facility. And I think that it was a good choice of where it was put, and I think that the design of it and all those things were really important. But I know it was also looked at whether it should be where the big truck stop in Bonner is right now, or there were lots of locations looked at. And one of the things that was part of that was considered then, and I wasn't a commissioner then, I was just a citizen in the community, was how close it was to housing. Now, there has been some housing that's happened since it was built there, further down on the Copper Run and some of those. But I really think that there needs to be more process to talk about those things again. And I also think that, they don't make land anymore, and the county has always been a little bit stingy with that because of not knowing what the future needs of the county are. We continue to grow. Unfortunately, with growth comes crime. And I know that we're doing a lot of important things in this county that started a long time ago, but especially under the leadership of Commissioner Rowley before she left, and I know one of you will take that over, in regard to jail diversion. But I still have concerns that land, I'm not against housing, of course, but I just have concerns that maybe that jail diversion stuff will show that we really need more than housing there. And I also don't know whether I would want to say, and I live right next to the jail. So I just hope that you add a good component once you have the staff report, that you add a good component of public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment, and particularly if there's any items folks think would warrant discussion or investigation in the staff report, now would certainly be the time to note those. Come on up.
Good afternoon. My name is Heather McMillan. I'm the Housing Development Director for Homeward. So I wanted to address a couple of at least discussion points or concerns. I appreciate former Commissioners Curtis's comments. We too have had some pretty in-depth discussions. This project is a combined effort between the Missoula Housing Authority, Homeward, and Blue Line Development, a for-profit developer. And the location of this housing is actually very strategic in the sense that, yes, there's housing in that area, and yes, there's a jail in that area, but there are some very strict design standards, requirements, and a component of this housing, the supportive service housing, is actually a really important slice of the homeless, addressing the homeless issues we have as a community. This is where it's going to be wet housing. We're going to be able to drop people off there instead of the ER or the jail. So it's really a direct benefit. That component of the project will be physically separate and face a different direction than the housing on that site. There's actually strict architectural rules. We can't face and look over the yard. And so there will be intense design conversations about how to orient the building and make sure there's those physical separations, and to deal with the concerns that we would have for future residents. The combination of this permanent supportive service and the smaller unit housing on this site with the former Skyview trailer park site is a way to leverage, and I think you guys have heard this, but the scale of both projects working together work for both to get to the supportive service housings that we really need here in Missoula, but also to use a non-competitive funding source to also develop another 72 units or so at a site in the wonderful West Side neighborhood. So there are pros and cons to all decisions and where we build housing, but this is close to infrastructure and some of the services associated with that supportive service. There are also a handful of very good agencies that will be helping with that supportive service, and not just us as housing developers. And so here to answer any questions or help you guys in your decision-making as we talk about how this project moves forward. And I will say, the land donation is critical in the financing mechanism to make the whole project work overall. And we really appreciate your time and thoughtfulness around this donation.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
And this is just to share with the greater community here. Can you describe the mechanism by which scale allows for access to funding that wouldn't otherwise be reachable and typically in other nonprofit development projects hasn't been able to be reached because of the amount of units produced and how this is really special?
Wow, and I promised you coffee, Josh, but now I'll talk about it on the record. So what Homeward and the Housing Authority and others have used primarily is what is called a 9% low-income housing tax credit mechanism. There's a limited amount of those at the state. I'll try to be brief. We compete for them annually, and only 5 projects statewide get funded. They're very competitive. They only produce about 35 to 40 at most units. There's another IRS program, the 4% bond component of the low-income housing tax credit. And what we can do with that resource is we will be applying to the city's bond cap, and then the credits can automatically be awarded. It's just less equity and more debt. But to get there, we have to have a scale. We have to have between 150 and 200 units, and it only works in a couple of communities. And so that's why we think we've gotten very creative in combining 2 projects that would have normally been separate and unfundable, standalone, put it together, and then leverage the strengths of both sides of that to get enough scale to access that mechanism. The former Cooley site, Skyview Trailer Court, was unsuccessful last year in applying for those 9% tax credits, and it will continue to be an issue for us in Missoula because have been successful in the past, and it's just highly competitive. They were trying to do a different developer was trying to do something there, and it wasn't awarded, even though it was greatly needed. So we wanted to be proactive instead of having to be reactive to a limited resource, and this is an opportunity for that.
Thanks. I really like the automatically awarded tax credit part.
So do we.
Thank you. Thanks, Heather. Additional public comment? Anyone else?
Hi, thank you for this opportunity to speak before the commission. My name's Lori Davidson. I'm the director of the Missoula Housing Authority. I just want to speak a little bit more to the 4% tax credit. This is only the second 4% tax credit project we've been able to do in Missoula. There's been a couple that have been done in other parts of the state. And the reason for that is that it's very difficult to do, as you know. But the reason that we've been able to do this successfully is because both of the projects that we're using these 4% tax credits on have donated land. It is the key component of making these projects work. There isn't enough soft money in the world that can fill that gap. So it's a really important donation for a very important project, and we thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I would like to thank you for this opportunity as well. My name is Kyla Shields, and I am a board member on the Missoula Housing Authority Board. And there are just a couple of points that I wanted to make. I feel like this donation is crucial in our ability to move forward with this project, with the scattered site project, which not only would allow for over 200 units of affordable housing, affordable permanent housing, but it also goes into the step of addressing and integrating other services as well on a site that's not ideal for housing for everyone. This is going to allow for supportive services on many aspects, from the reentry programs and being so close to the jail, and then also being able to integrate help with mental health and addiction services right there on site. the services that we've talked about are harm reduction programs and healthcare for the homeless clinics and behavioral health support and mental health evaluations, and a coordinated entry system for an access point to housing and an access point to reentry, and being that close to not only the jail but the pre-release, and then centrally located with access to the busing systems and such. It's a perfect location. Not only is the location amazing for this project, but this 4-acre parcel is imperative to our ability to go on with the housing option as well for those 200 units. And I think that if you could just consider that in your decision. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else who hasn't spoken yet? Oh, looking for a multiple bite at the apple there, I saw. Okay, come on up.
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Flaherty. I'm a real estate broker in this community and have been for nearly half a century. I also was a commissioner in the 90s on the Missoula Housing Authority, and I am presently a board member with Homeward. And I look at these projects, and I've looked at them for a lot of years, and how they've been put together and how they're structured and how they're able to be built and developed. It's getting more and more difficult. At the same time, we have a large population of our residents that we use the term affordable housing, but I think it's more appropriate to say a home that someone can afford to live in this community. So I would urge your support, because the piece from the county is vital to the project, and it needs to be included for these to go forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Lori, did you have something else you wanted to share? I normally don't let people come back multiple times, but
Very quick.
Okay.
And something anecdotal for you. I got an email from our property manager at the Palace Apartments this morning, and we house a lot of people who were formerly homeless at the Palace, the apartments that are downtown. And she said 2 of the people that she was able to put into apartments over this past week, both of them, within a week of getting their apartment, were able to get jobs. So housing first.
okay, thank you. Why not? Come on up, Jane.
I like this side of the thing. Just one thing that for you to consider, as Vicki had mentioned, the list of things for you to ask staff to address. One was the boundary location. So I think what would be helpful in your discussion for the size or where the boundary goes would be future needs for the county. Because I know one thing that was always looked at is the sheriff's department takes the 2nd floor here right now, but there was talk about what their needs might be in the future. So I think it would be helpful in your boundary discussion to also show, if you're going to gift the land, is there room for what you need in the future on what's left?
Thank you. Anyone else? Come on up.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Andrea Davis, the Executive Director of Homeward, and I would like to echo what Jean just shared. I think that that's a very appropriate and good use of staff resources, is to be able to identify how we utilize this precious piece of property as best as possible for future county needs, as well as for the benefit of the homes that are built on the Mullen Street site. One thing that I would point out, we're a small group in the housing world, and when I was a staff person with the Missoula Housing Authority, we redeveloped the Uptown Apartments, which is just right across the street here on Woody. And those are 14 homes that are single residence occupancy for people that were experiencing homelessness. They're permanent homes. 14 SRO units, they're called, for people that were formerly homeless. And they are not necessarily across from a jail per se. I mean, this is a beautiful county courthouse, but they are across from law enforcement. And it has been, I would say, a miraculous property. Lori would speak to that. Of course, they manage it to this day, but it is a charming, small property right across the street from you here. You'll notice it's actually very interesting. It's independent homes. There are not services that are as intricate and intricately woven into that property as what we're proposing for this project. And that's because at the Mullen site, we are looking to work with folks that are frequent utilizers of both the emergency rooms and emergency response system as well as our jail systems. So we have a bit of experience here in the community already to see how this has been a success. I think design absolutely plays a critical role into that. Again, I would encourage you to take a walk across the street and look at the Uptown. We did just that. We made sure that there was some defining features that really created what was an old motor inn, an old motel, into a beautiful small little apartment complex with public art and trees. I think that things that really made it humane and quite an aesthetic actually for downtown Missoula. The other thing that I really keyed into Jean's comment about examining the jail diversion master plan, and that's certainly something I think we all want to be able to process as a community is, 10 years ago, we did not have these planning elements in place in terms of the 10-year plan to end homelessness, nor did we have the jail diversion master plan. We've put these efforts and strategies in place, and we really are trying on something new. I think there does need to be some back and forth about how effective is this and what is it that we need to make room for. I hope we have the opportunity to make room for more homes in our community. I would rather not see the Poverello Center grow, okay? I'd rather see it stay the size it is and serve the number of people it currently serves today, as well as our jail. And I know that might sound Pollyannish, but the reality is we can put our energy behind certain kinds of efforts like giving people that are really struggling with both experiencing homelessness and mental illness and addictions, the services they need to live a healthy and strong life, or we can incarcerate and or serve those people in a homeless shelter. So I really appreciate the amount of work that the staff will go through to investigate this kind of a disposition. And I just want to say that we as part of the development team are at your disposal for however we can help with that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Anyone else? No taker back there. Okay. So at least from my perspective, everything on the list, the questions that were posed by Vicki seem all things that I would like to see in a staff report. I do think it's a legitimate point to relate this proposed action to our space needs and the analysis that we've done so far relative to space needs, particularly what the sheriff needs out at the detention facility. Josh?
I feel like I'm always talking.
And I don't know that we need a motion. We just need two of us to direct staff to do this.
So I'm kind of echoing what Dave said. Definitely check in with the sheriff, who, to note, was an enthusiastic supporter. But I'm sure he would really appreciate being considered and having a conversation about future space needs.
Anything from your perspective, Juanita?
I just wanted to check back with former Commissioner Curtis's initial comments about the public process. Do you have any more direction or suggestions about how you want to see that?
Jean, do you want to come on up?
Jean Curtis. I just think that a lot of, I know that when you sit on committees and stuff, you get lots of inside information. And I mean, I learned a lot today just hearing the different aspects of it. So I think that the more information you could put out early as to what the use of the land and how things are coordinated and how it relates to other things ahead of that meeting on the 22nd would give the public a better opportunity to know whether they do favor it or don't.
Thank you.
Thanks. Vicki, do you want to recap anything for us?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that August 22nd will bring the staff report. At that time, we are not planning that you will make a decision because we believe you'll need some time to digest that, and we'll keep the public comment open for a period. I think probably your September schedule is quite tricky, but we will get your final decision hopefully in September. So I just want everybody to know August 22nd when I bring the staff report. Right now, staff is not looking for a final decision. I think it's time for the public to know what our final report is, and then also to give the commission time to consider it before you actually make a final decision.
Yeah, Josh.
The question for Heather, if you don't mind. I understand this is a pretty complicated deal, for lack of a better word, given all the partners and moving parts. Is that a timeline that would work? Are we going to lose this opportunity by not having a word to you by September?
No, I mean, you guys have made an initial commitment, and there's a process that you need to walk through, and we want to respect that. And we have kind of a rolling timeline, but we will be submitting our application to the state and the city doing a bond issuance, over the next couple of months. But it can be on the contingent upon the commitment of the parcel. And I'd rather see you guys go through the proper public process and go in more in depth with the.
I don't want to give up on the process, but I don't want to kill this thing
Right.
because of the timeline.
I'll reserve the right to, if somebody says that we need something more, we might revisit that with you all. But I think moving forward at this pace, we knew that this would take a little more time and it should work for our timeline.
Thanks.
Commissioners?
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Could I suggest that at the August 22nd meeting, Homeward give a presentation with regard to the proposed use of the property? Because that would, following up on what Jean said, help the public understand what the proposed use is to better provide more informed public comment.
Excellent idea, Heather or Andrea. Does that sound like okay?
Yeah, I don't see an issue. We'll have Blue Line involved as well, and the Housing Authority, because the unique part about this supportive service, Blue Line has actually done a development project in Denver it's almost the exact same project, and it worked really well. And so we'll want to make sure that all three of us participate, but we'd be happy to. More conversation, the better. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming, Deputy County Attorney Anna Conley. Good suggestion.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay, I guess consider staff directed to develop a report on this topic. Okay, is there any other business to come before the commission today? Seeing none, we'll be adjourned.